Hey there. Ever feel like the word economics is this giant, complicated thing? Something just for experts on Wall Street? Well, we're going to change that today. We're going to pull back the curtain and show you what it's really all about. Turns out it's basically a toolkit for understanding the choices you and I make every single day.
So here's the game plan. First, we'll tackle the one single problem that the entire field of economics exists to solve. After that, we'll figure out what economics actually is, how economists see the world, the different hats they wear, and most importantly, why any of this should matter to you.
Okay, let's jump right in at square one. Because before we can even define what economics is, we need to get our heads around the one core challenge it was built to address. It's a problem that affects every single one of us. Just picture this for a second. It's your typical morning. You're in line for a coffee, wallet out, and you have that little debate in your head. Do I get the fancy latte today, or do I squirrel that $5 away in savings? Seems pretty minor, doesn't it? Well, guess what? That little decision, that was an economic decision. Yep. See, economics isn't just about GDP reports and stock tickers. At its heart, it's about what you choose to do with what you've got. So why do we have to make choices like that? It all boils down to one single powerful idea: scarcity. Think about it. Our wants are basically endless, right? We want the coffee, and the vacation, and the new gadget, and a fat savings account. But the stuff we have to get those things, our time, our money, that stuff is limited. And that fundamental conflict, that mismatch, that's the core problem economics tries to solve. And because of this whole scarcity thing, every single society, I don't care if it's a tiny village or a global superpower, has to answer three basic questions. First, what are we going to make? More hospitals or more sports stadiums? Second, how are we going to make it? Do we use more machines or hire more people? And third, and this is a big one, who gets all this stuff once it's made? Okay, so we've got the problem down. Now we can finally put a name to the field that's all about tackling it. So what is economics anyway? When you boil it all down, economics is really the science of choice. It's all about how we, as individuals, families, and entire countries, deal with not having enough of everything to go around. And here's a little tidbit I think is really cool. The word economics comes from a Greek word, oikonomia, which literally means management of the household. How perfect is that? It just goes to show you that these huge global ideas really do start with the simple choices we all make at home. But the definition wasn't always this clear. It's actually evolved a ton over the years. You had Adam Smith, way back in 1776, who basically said it's the science of wealth. Simple enough. Then folks like Alfred Marshall came along and said, hang on, it's more about people's well-being. But the real game changer was Lionel Robbins, who put that idea of scarcity front and center. And later, P.A. Samuelson tacked on the idea of growth over time. So you see, it's not some dusty old subject. It's constantly changing. All right, so if that's what economics is, the next question is, how do economists do their job? Well, they basically have two main ways of looking at the world, two different lenses they can use. And probably the best way to get this is to think about a forest. Are you going to zoom in and study one individual tree, its leaves, its branches, its roots? Or are you going to pull way back and look at the health of the whole forest? Well, economics does both. And that right there is the big split between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is all about the individual trees. It asks small-scale questions like, why did you buy that specific brand of coffee? Or how does one company decide what to charge for its products? Then you have macroeconomics. That's the whole forest. It's the big picture stuff, things like inflation for the entire country, the national unemployment rate, or a nation's GDP. But it's not just about big picture versus small picture. Economists also have two totally different hats they can wear when they're analyzing something. And here's the key question to ask yourself to get it straight. Is the economist acting like a scientist, just describing what they see, or are they acting more like an advisor, telling us what we should do? This gets us to the difference between positive and normative economics. Think of positive economics as the scientist's description. It's about facts that can be tested. It states what is. For instance, saying if the price of gasoline goes up, people may drive less. That's a testable claim. Now, normative economics is more like a doctor's prescription. It's about opinions and values, what ought to be. Something like, the government should invest more in public transportation. See the difference? One is a description, the other is a prescription. Okay, let's take a breath. We've got scarcity, micro and macro, positive and normative. That's our basic toolkit. But so what? Why does any of this matter? How does it actually apply to, real life? Well, this is where it gets really powerful. This toolkit lets us pick apart almost anything. Consumption, that's just a fancy word for looking at why you buy the things you buy. Production studies how a company, whether it's a giant like Apple or the bakery down the street, decides what to make. Distribution digs into the tough questions like why some people earn way more than others. And public finance, that's all about how the government handles our tax money. So when you put it all together, what you have is this incredible framework for thinking about the world. It helps you make sense of your own budget, understand what's going on when a big company makes a move, and even grasp the logic behind the policies being debated in government. So I'm going to leave you with a little challenge. Now that you have these tools, this new way of seeing things, look at the rest of your day. What's the biggest economic choice you're going to make? And remember, it's not always just about money. It's about how you use your limited time, your energy, your resources to get the things you really want out of life.